Hey, this is Bobby Davis from the tech capital of the world. I'm here joined by my producer extraordinaire, Kevin Doyle. Say hello to the world, Kevin.
Hey, world.
How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
It's another great day here in Kernersville. So how are you? How's things your way?
It's good. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, we're a little bit late today, but that's okay.
Yeah.
As long as Adam doesn't call me out over it. But I haven't seen him be in the chat yet, so he might not be here. So
yeah, we got a super
That's
cool guest that just some random guy I met on the internet is gonna be our guest today. So like, I made a new friend. I was like, hey, you want to come on the show? And he magically said yes.
Didn't your mom tell you not to play on the internet?
Yeah,
it's just gonna get you in trouble.
But what I will say is, just talking to him here right before we came on, like he's got a lot of good stuff to say. So
yeah,
Danny Thompson, if you don't know, if you've been on Twitter, he's all over Twitter talking about how to break into code. I think he can help us today with our tutorial Purgatory question.
Yeah. I'd seen a lot of tweets on this recently.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a good topic for us to talk about. We have opinions on this. We have advice on this. So I was like, yeah, let's talk about that today.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea. There's some interesting things around this area. So let's say hey to some people first before we get going here. MSV is here. MSV, thanks for coming back. Delibor is here. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. It says the subject looks promising. So hopefully we can deliver on that, promising subject. Hey, Thomas is here. Hey, Thomas. How's it going? Hope class is going well. Let me see. Devnesh is here. Maverick's back. What's he got to say today? Have you all seen the Mac Mini Dev Kit benchmarks? They're better than the top tier. So this is with the new, I guess, Apple Silicon, right? Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Yeah.
No, I haven't seen one.
It's going to be interesting. You officially haven't got one.
No. Tim Cook's busy today. He's on Capitol Hill. I'd call him, but
but he's got a busy day. Yeah. Andreas is here too. Hey, Andreas. Oh, look, Adam is here. Sorry for being late, Adam. Sorry.
All right. Sorry.
Adam's our moderator here on Discord. Thank you for doing that, Adam. We appreciate it. Brian's here too. Hey, Brian.
Hey, I want to shout out to Brian. Get ready for that demo tomorrow, Brian. You're going to win a job tomorrow. So Brian's demoing to several employees at our demo day tomorrow.
Yep. And we're actually going to. I've asked Brian to come back on Friday with just you and I to do a demo as well, so we can actually record it and show you guys Brian's demo because it's legit good. It's good. He has a great application and it's good, and it's an example of what a demonstration to an employer should look like. So we're going to have him. We're going to record it and we're going to show you guys probably next Tuesday. We'll see if that's going to be our Tuesday video, but next week sometime. So. Yeah, that should be cool. See who else is here. Nelson's here too. Hey, Nelson from South Africa. That's awesome. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Simon's here too, and he likes the idea of today's subject. So that's cool.
That's cool.
Dun. I don't recognize the name, so thanks for joining us. And good vibes to you too.
Good vibes.
Shippo is here too, and here's Danny. And he's very excited to be here with everyone.
Danny's here, man. Danny's here.
So we'll bring Danny in here in a second. Jesus is here too from Venezuela. That's awesome. Thanks for joining us, Jesus. Okay. I'm going to start out. Maverick's here, so I'm going to start out with memes. Let's do memes. We have a couple that I really liked. So, and a couple that we were laughing about this morning. So let's start there. So cool. Let me. What do I do with my memes here? Did I break something? Oh no, I didn't. Hold on. So I'm just in the wrong place. I was going to show you guys my private messages then. Here we go. Let me share this. Okay, this is the first one that you were laughing about this morning.
The world right true. Now, it's on fire, and programmers are like, anyone want a website?
I thought that was pretty good. I like that one.
Yeah, I liked it. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. And then this one I super liked. I thought this one was really good because this is so true.
Yeah.
The developer being like intricate and getting it exactly right and doing all this cool stuff to get this thing super smooth, and the tester just running straight through it.
Yeah, just runs straight through it and breaks everything. So you're like, dude, what's up? Don't do that. Yeah.
Oh, I liked it.
So It's a true story. I was in a dev meeting one time running dev teams. And so I had 20, 25 people working for me at the time. And I remember we were sitting in the meeting and I said, the user reported an error when they do this. And the dev looked at me dead in his eye with all seriousness, says, well, tell them not to do that.
Wow. That's great.
I said, I think you kind of missed the point here, man. So like, we got to fix this stuff, So like, that's what we're going to do. Tell them not to do that.
Just don't do it.
Yeah. So
that's awesome. Okay, so right, cool. Before we jump into our topic, let's bring Danny in. And then we'll just do the rest of the stuff with Danny here, and we can talk about it.
Yeah, cool. Hey, Danny, what's up?
Hey. What's going on, everybody? Very excited to be here.
So I just linked you in this morning. We just talked this morning, but true story though, I've been stalking you on Twitter for a while. So, just to let you know. So like
that means a lot. That means a lot. I hope you threw a follow my way, but that means a lot. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So it's you got a great take on how to break people in. So talk about like a little bit about your journey, because we've got one of your tweets here we're going to show here. And so we talked a little bit about your PhD. What's your PhD in?
So I have a PhD in frying chicken. If you want to put some weight on y'all, I'll make that happen. I started working I come from a gas station background. So when I started working in gas stations, I was wearing like a size medium shirt. It's not medium anymore, I'll tell you that much. Right. So I know how to put some weight on some people. But I did that for over 10 years. Yep, there it is.
There it is.
I did that for over 10 years. And, the whole reason why I even got into tech was because of a rapper. This rapper was giving an interview where he invested several $1 million into a tech company. And this kind of blew my mind. And I'm like, well, why is he doing that? And of course, he was asked the same question. Why are you investing in a tech company? And he said he's learning how to code. And I was blown away because my entire life I was under the assumption that people that knew how to code were like the PhDs and the rocket scientists of the world. I didn't think people like me from my background ever went into coding. And so obviously he's not learning how to code to become like a software engineer or like a developer or anything. So what is he learning to code for? And the reasoning is profound. Why wouldn't you want to understand the basic functionality of the thing that you touch 90% out of your day?
Yes.
Like we have a basic understanding of our body, right? If we get sick, we know either A, we got to go to a doctor, we're not going to make it, or B, we could ride this out, take some, Tylenol and we'll be A-okay. Or right. If we're driving our car and it makes a weird sound, like, oh, this needs to go to a mechanic. So why is the limited understanding that we have with these amazing machines opening up Google Chrome and going to youtube.com and watching cat videos, right? Like why do we limit these abilities so much? So he started learning how to code and so did I, and I fell in love with it. And I didn't even start learning how to code because I was like, oh, I'm going to get a job in tech. I didn't even think that was possible. I was like, I have an idea that I want to bring to fruition. And the problem was I knew I had an idea. I just didn't know what the idea was. I knew there was something up there in the back of my mind that I was percolating, that was ready to come out. I just needed to have an avenue to where I can implement this technology and this idea and make it come to life. So I started, coding. I actually started on freecodecamp.org, and I'm a huge supporter of them. Because of Quincy, he's given me pretty much everything that I could have ever asked for. And I'm a big believer in positive impact creates more positive impact. By him creating that platform, he's helped many people get to where they're going. And that is a similar philosophy that I have. I love helping people get to where they want to go, because if I help them getting to where they want to go, can you imagine the people they will bring along the way? So I started learning how to code, and I found out about meetups. And I went to my very first meetup, and I basically made a very basic application, an HTML, CSS. You put in like the URL of an image, and it'll bring the image and put like, some colors on top of it. It's like a really crappy filter. But basically at that time in my journey, I could cure cancer with code, right? So I went to this meetup, and I was excited to be there. And I quickly realized, oh, I don't know stuff. I don't know anything, right? And I quickly realized that I was excluded from the conversation and not included because of my lack of knowledge. And I said in that moment, I will never be excluded again. So I went home, And I started studying, and I was studying, and I started learning about JavaScript and ES6 functions. And I went to the next meetup. I'm like, well, do you know about an arrow function in JavaScript? Do you know you could do this? I started going home, and I started studying, and I started learning about SQL. And I went back, and I was like, well, do you know what a SQL table is? Do you know how to do a SQL query? Then I started studying more, and I started learning about Java. And I went to that next meetup, and I was like, well, do you know about Spring Framework? Or do you know this? And now I'm included in this phenomenal community of amazing developers that are passionate about helping others get to where they want to go and growing their skills. But I made the same mistake everybody asks when they go to a meetup, and it's, how do I get that first job in tech?
Yep.
And I heard the exact same answer over and over again, like a broken record. Oh man, that first job, woo, that's a tough one. But if you get that first job, every job after that will be easy.
That's true. I do think that's true.
To me, that is the worst answer you could ever tell someone like me, because not only did you demotivate and demoralize me, but you gave me 0 action items to work on. Oh, yeah. And I realized everyone else that was asking that same question was getting that same answer. So I instantly decided I need to create a network for these people to go through. And so I created this hiring network, and I started cold calling like hiring managers and recruiters. And in the beginning, like, who is this Danny guy? And now they're like, oh, I knew Danny from the beginning, man. I love that guy. But I was very focused on the idea that if I can portray and show someone's passion to learn, a hiring manager may be more likely to take a chance on that individual, at least for the interview. And then once you have the interview, they can now show their value. I'm a big believer in, if you walk into an interview and you show your value, they will pay attention. A lot of people go into these interviews with this mindset of, I need a job. Please give me a job. Just give me a chance. Give me a chance. Like that begging mindset. And nothing is worse for a candidate to go into that interview with a begging mindset, because people are not attracted to that by nature. People want something that's hard to ascertain, not something that's easy to get. Why do you think the clearance aisle in grocery stores are always full, right? Nobody wants to be there. People want the good stuff, right? So now if you go into an interview saying, I'm going to bring value to this conversation. I am valuable, and I will bring value to this team. If you bring value, they will bring a checkbook. It's as simple as that. And I think 100%. This was a long answer to, hey, how you doing, by the way? But
no, it was a great answer.
That's great. That's awesome. So I like what you're doing here. I'm really motivated. The other thing that I was in our pre-call here, I didn't know this, but you made your own tech conference. And that, to me, I'm trying to do that, and I'm not having great success. But like, to me, that's amazing. Like, tell me how that happened and what you did, and like, let's build one in North Carolina.
So I'm a very big goal-orientated person. I like having goals. I'm a big believer in, if you make your goals big and exciting, you'll be motivated, driven, whatever you want to call it, to achieve them. So I get a lot of heat for saying this all the time, but I do. I wake up every day at 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, I'm not waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning because it's cool and it's like a good, meme to post, like, oh, I'm up at 4 a.m. No, my 4 a.m. is my me time. My family stays asleep until about 7. So it gives me about 3 hours that I dedicate to myself, to becoming better at whatever it is that I want to be. I don't do anything related to work in this time period. This is Danny time. This is time for Danny to grow. I'm a big believer in, you need to work at your job, but you need to work harder on yourself, because a job can tell you what they're going to pay you, but a job can't tell you what you're worth. So as long as you're increasing your value, that will transpire into something over time. It may not happen in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but that consistent effort will separate you from anyone else trying to do the exact same thing that you're doing. So whether that's you want to increase your freelance business, whether that's you want to get more clients, I guarantee you, if my goal is to get more clients and I had those 3 hours ahead of you, I'd have more clients in another time zone than you would ever have wherever you want to be. And that's just it's simple math. 3 extra hours a day gives me, XYZ results. So I'm very focused on doing that. And one of my goals for the longest time that I was working on was, having the first tech conference in Memphis. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. If you didn't figure that out, barbecue capital of the world. We do it right. We'll get you fat, just like my chicken. But
North Carolina has something to
say. Man, I don't.
Hold on. Hold on. There's a barbecue debate here. I love it.
Lexington style, baby.
Yeah. So I'm very big on goals, and one of my goals was I want to have the first tech conference in Memphis. We have so many phenomenal people in the city that are learning how to code, that are making this transition. Memphis is one of the lowest cost of living cities in the country. And it's also one of the lowest cost of earners in the country. And we have a lot of people in areas that I'm focused on where I'm trying to get these people to enter into new fields. So we have one area in particular where the average household income annually is $18,000 a household. Right? They cannot afford to go to a conference that's $400. It's just not possible. Even if they were like, tech is my goal and my dream, and I want to make this happen, and this is where I'm going on 18 grand a year, there's no way you can make that happen. There's no way. You're under the poverty line as is. So I wanted to make sure we had this conference for free, because if I can get one person from that area into a position where they're now making 80 grand a year, they're now generating 4.5 times the average household income annually. If I can get 20 people from that area, I just changed the neighborhood. Now the schools are getting more money because they're paying more in taxes. The tax bracket changed. So now the kids are benefiting from it. Not only that, but now we're deterring gang violence and drug violence, but we're also removing the number one reason for divorce in these communities, and that's financial issues. Just by providing learning resources and opportunities that they don't have because they never had them. Like for me, for example, I never knew tech was a possibility because it was never discussed in that way. If it wasn't for a TV interview, I never would have known I was allowed to learn how to code. And so for me, I think I'm a big believer in education is a window. Like when you learn something, it creates a window where you can look out and now you can understand what you're looking at. This conference was a way to make that happen at a massive scale, as opposed to one person at a time, 2 people at a time, 100 people at a time, because we had 3,000 people attend that conference. So by creating this free opportunity, by putting these learning resources from professionals from Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and literally teaching them from a high level, right? Like these high level cloud concepts and JavaScript concepts, and now we're putting it in a edible way for you to take it in, right? Sometimes you get lessons that are so big it just goes over you. But if we can break it down to where you now understand what you're looking at, you now have enough knowledge to say, this is a field I want to jump into. This is a field I want to jump into. And within 5-6 hours, you're able to explore multiple different areas of technology. That is a huge benefit that no one in the city has ever had. So it's a great way for opportunities like that to literally transform lives.
Okay, cool. I like it, man. You've got me motivated. I'm going to double my efforts.
It's what I do.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love it.
So, as you know, Danny, as you know, Danny, oh, he's talking about like barbecue.
It's like a barbecue. That's funny. So, people are passionate about their barbecue.
Yeah, I was in New York one time, and so from where I'm at, we're 40 minutes out of Lexington, which is like the barbecue capital of the world, in my opinion. But in general, so I'm in New York one time, and these guys take me to a barbecue joint. And I'm like, come on, man. If I brought you down to North Carolina, I wouldn't take you out to eat pizza. I mean, what are we doing here? It's like, So anyway.
Chad's got you hooked up, Danny. He says he's got a Lexington barbecue sandwich and a chia wine waiting for you here in Lexington.
That's fine. If you come to Memphis, all you have to do is tweet me, and I will take you to some of the best smoked barbecue you've ever had in your life. We've got a place here that smokes so long. The smoke rings are so perfect that you don't even chew. It just melts and goes down your throat.
I will admit, I've been there and I've eaten barbecue, and it was legit amazing. And I've been to Nashville and had hot chicken, and it was amazing.
Yeah, so hot chicken is good too.
Memphis food is legit.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we as you know, we run a coding boot camp here, and we teach people to code. But I also try to work with people that don't necessarily come to Coder Foundry. So I'm trying to figure out ways to convince them to choose coding as a career, because I do think it's an economic mobilizer, like none other. Like if you live in like inner city Memphis, but you know how to code, you can work anywhere on the face of this planet. remote jobs are available. And in a weird way, COVID has made that more possible now, like because COVID is going to force companies to only work remote. So now you have even more opportunity than you did before. But what I see people doing is making the same mistake, which is like they start with tutorials and they never leave them.
Yeah. Yep. I talk about this a lot, but go ahead before I say anything.
Yeah, I'm going to share. So firstly, I'm going to share. So just looking at one platform, right? This is literally just looking at Udemy. If you search for, what do I search for here? I search for web development on Udemy. This thing comes up with 7,857 results. And I'm sure most people have looked at these. I've definitely looked at Colt Steele's Web Developer Bootcamp. Great course.
Yeah.
I've looked at this Dr. Angela Yu's course as well. Great course. These are $14. Now, for me, like $14 seems like it's great, but it's also kind of an issue. And that maybe that's part of this too, and part of that plays into this is because they are cheap, and I don't feel bad if I don't finish them. I don't even feel bad if I don't look at them sometimes. I'll buy it, and literally, I don't know how many people here, but I bet you it's a bunch, just like me, have bought Udemy courses and have never, ever even started them, let alone finished them. So there's this saturation of just like, and this is just one platform. This is just Udemy. This isn't taking into account any of the free YouTube stuff or any of the other ones.
Yeah.
There's a massive amount of content out there.
So the other problem I see, Danny, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this. I see people starting out with HTML. They take a course in HTML, and I talk to them 2 weeks later, and they're like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm learning Python now." And then you talk to them 2 weeks later, "Oh, I'm into Node.js now." And then you talk to them 4 weeks later, and they're like doing Java or something like that. They never stick with anything at all and learn something from front end to back end. What do you think about that?
We've touched on so many things in such a short period of time that I kind of want to address them all. But the first is when it comes to like Udemy courses and things like that, it's amazing how employers don't care about the courses you buy.
Mm-hmm.
They do care about the projects you complete.
Yes.
That's the difference. Yes. I always tell people this all the time. Like, this isn't Pokemon where you got to catch them all, right? Like, this is real life. And if you have complete projects, you can talk about that in an interview. You can talk about that with other developers at a meetup. I would rather you do one course and complete projects out of it, and which goes into, I have 3 rules to becoming a developer fast. ABL, ABB, CCC. ABL, always be learning. ABB, always be building. CCC, code. Always be learning. Learn through multiple methods and mediums because no 2 teachers teach the same. You can literally learn 2 things on the same subject from different people.
Yep.
ABB, always be building. Build a tutorial, nothing breaks. In real life, everything breaks. Literally making a background red can break something on your website. Like, so build, and facing those errors will actually make you a better developer as opposed to finishing 10 guided courses. Falling into that deep end will make you better on a plane that you've never even imagined before. Code. Let those fingers dance on the keyboard. The only way you're going to become better is literally by putting your fingers on those keys and typing out that code 1 letter at a time.
Right.
The other thing, and here's the thing, when it comes to tutorials, and this is going around the central idea of tutorial purgatory, don't just build whatever they're guiding you to build. For example, let's say they guided you to build a dog app. Well, make one for cats.
Yep.
Did they teach you how to make a car reservation application? Now make one for houses. The basic structure will be the same, but you will now have to figure out how to make these little different changes on your own. That learning experience alone will teach you more than the entire tutorial did. Like, you're going to still get your finished project. You now have multiple projects for the same tutorial, so you're getting more bang for your buck, right? But the learning experience is probably 50 times more profound than what it was before. And of course, that's how you pad out your portfolio as well. Like, you need to have projects on your portfolio site that you're very proud of. Here's a great way to do that. The other thing with tutorial purgatory is people get so caught up in having that hand-holded experience, because here's the thing with tutorials. They're taking you down a predefined, predestined road that has no bumps in it. your errors that you face might be slight typo errors because you didn't follow the tutorial 100%. Maybe they had a comment and you missed it or whatever it may be, but there's no real profound errors there. 99% of my job is debugging code, finding the error, or finding what broke, right? Maybe 1% is, here's a brand new web page, go create this from scratch, right? Most of your job is going to be, here's a code base that is 1 million lines, get to digging. Like
right,
that,
exactly.
you're given, you know how like when you go on like a treasure hunt, you have a map. When it comes to coding, your map is completely blank. It is up to you to draw that path to where you need to go. So you don't have an idea, you're searching, you're going through it. Tutorials do not take you down that road. They take you down, do this exactly this way, do this exactly this way. Tutorials are fantastic for building your basics, but past that, you need to start building on your own. Now, you can use whatever like methods to help you get to that point, but just know you need to try and experiment a little bit here. So even if you're following a tutorial and they did one thing one way, try and experiment and see if you can do this another way, or have your finished product and see, how can I break this? Where am I breaking it? All right, now how can I fix it? Those breaks and fixings will teach you a lot about what's going on. The other thing is with tutorial purgatory, you're so dependent on the hand-holding, you're almost like on a crutch where you're not allowing yourself to actually extend yourself or walk on your own. So the idea of how can I make this just has you staring at a blank screen.
Yep.
That experimentation is what separates you from I need to be guided to I can venture out a little bit. Like, can you actually make a website right now without looking at a tutorial that is just HTML, CSS? Forget about JavaScript and all that. We can add that later. But can you actually make a full static website on HTML, CSS? If the answer is yes, fantastic. Now let's start adding some elements here. Now let's start going ahead and make this dynamic. That is how you break out of that cycle.
Okay, cool.
The other thing I wanted to touch on is when it comes to like coding from anywhere. I even posted this last week.
You can code have this to share here too.
Yeah, go ahead, share it. Literally last week, I was on a beach, coding on a beach. Did it share? Did I freeze? What's going on?
No, you should be there. I think Kevin froze.
I think he froze. Okay.
Yeah. Let me pull him out of the stream.
You don't have technical difficulties. Are you really doing a live stream?
So we'll pull him out, and I'll pull him out. Yeah. We'll go like that. He'll come back.
So literally last week, I was coding on a beach, and coding on that beach, it was one of those like, oh, okay, this is like my dream moment, right? Like this is something that I've looked forward to for a long period of time. And you will never be able to do that in any other career field, in my opinion. You can't operate on somebody on a beach. So even if you were a doctor or a surgeon, you wouldn't be able to perform that task on a beach. Right. You wouldn't be able to, fry chicken on a beach and, work in a gas station there.
Yeah.
Tech is the only field that makes that a true reality. Now, I don't like doing this whole like, oh, tech is like this magical dream journey with no downsides. There's downsides. You're going to have headaches. You're going to hate yourself sometimes. You're going to want to flip the table when you can't figure out a problem. I've literally had problems to where for several days, I could not figure it out. And then one moment I just glanced and realized, oh, I missed a comma. I once literally caused a 4-day delay in production because I missed a comma in an object. Like, and then I had to face the team when they found it. That's just something you go through in this journey. Right. But I can honestly tell you, and I've been asked this several times, like, oh, what do you see as the future? Do you always see yourself coding, or do you see something else happening for your future? Even if I became like a CTO of a company, I would still have to code because I'm that drawn to it to a degree. And it's weird. I've never been that hooked on something, but there's some profound excitement, enjoyment by solving a hard problem that you couldn't get past. There's an enjoyment by literally taking an idea and bringing it to reality. And there's a lot of enjoyment when you're working on a team and you come through together and solve a product. I can't tell you how many times I've been on my company website and I've seen something in production. I'm like, oh, I worked on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's so weird, but like you get so proud. Like I really worked on that. Someone's clicking this button that I fixed because last week it was over here and now it's over here. Like stuff like that, it really gets to you. And I'm full stack, so I got stuff on the back end. Hey, what happened? Did you go?
I don't know. I broke something. I don't know. Yeah. But here you go. Hey, I'm gonna show you a tweet that you had now because I did get back. I had to restart Chrome. Thing. But there you go. Yeah. So you're working on a beach. That's awesome. I love that.
I was working on a beach. It was one of those like dream moments that I had to make happen. And I'm gonna be honest with you, sun wasn't that friendly with me at that moment, but I still made it work because But like, if you have an umbrella, you can hide that sun and you can get some work done. But it was one of those moments where I was like, God, this is real. Like, I'm making money while in the sand. My kid is playing right in front of us, and I'm getting a paycheck for this.
Yes. It's cool.
That's awesome.
So
that's very cool.
So I've equated it to like the industry of singing, musicians, athletes, and things like that. So like if you're Taylor Swift, you walk into a Starbucks and there may be 2 or 3 people listening to your music. If you're Jack Dorsey from Twitter and you walk into Starbucks, everybody's using your product. And so like that kind of like upward mobility that you have doesn't exist in any career whatsoever. You even think about like being really good as LeBron James. Yes, he makes a ton of money. He's in the NBA and only a few people can do that. I'm telling you right now, anybody could have been Mark Zuckerberg. Anybody, like, there's nothing special about that dude. He just knew how to code, had the right idea at the right time. Yeah, but he's not only could he be in the NBA as far as on salary wise, he could own a team, and I think that's where coding for me is that upper mobility that almost anyone can do. If we can just get them convinced of it.
Yeah, I can tell you from, I have no degree. I've never, gone to college. Yeah. I've always wanted to. I didn't have that luxury, unfortunately.
Right.
And for someone like me to go from literally at one point making minimum wage to making 6 figures, I don't say this to be like, oh, this is like braggadocious or something, but this is literally like a rags to riches scenario. And I don't say like, if you learn how to code, you're going to make 6 figures, or if you learn how to code, you're going to make $1 million. I don't like giving, advice like that or saying crazy statements like that. What I am saying, and I'll never ever say, don't go to college.
Right.
Go to college if you have the opportunity. You'll make networking connections that are valuable, and if you're willing to take on that debt, absolutely. What I am saying, it's not impossible to reach your dream without a degree.
Yeah, you don't have to do it. You can do it, but you don't have to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say there's definitely companies that are like, oh, you don't have a degree, I can't touch you with a 10-foot pole. 100%. Yeah. Most of the people that I help land jobs, for example, even the company I work with, I'm the very first person they ever hired without a degree. And it's almost like a trial. Like if I succeed, then they're more open to getting more people. And I'll tell you right now, I've screenshotted every single email I have that says, oh, Danny, you've done a good job. Like I need proof.
Like no pressure for the next guy.
Yeah. I'm making sure I keep my chronicle there. But many of the people that I've helped land jobs do not come from degree background. Many come from the 3 most common jobs in our area, which are retail workers, restaurant workers, and bus drivers. So these aren't people that traditionally go to a university or community college or anything else. So if we have that ability to take someone, give them the learning resources, give them the opportunities, and guide them the way they need to be guided to land a position in tech, like it's absolutely possible regardless of circumstances to some degree. There's absolutely bias in this industry, and I'll be the first one to say it. There's ageism, there's racism, there's sexism, all that good stuff. But what matters is you utilize this as a numbers game. And I always say this, I've been turned down plenty of times. I also had 6 job offers before I accepted my first job offer in tech. Like I'm very stubborn. I had an exact vision of what I wanted. And this was a situation where I wasn't ready to accept Splenda when I wanted sugar. So I wouldn't accept any substitutes in that scenario. I ended up finding my dream job. I've ended up finding the exact company that I wanted, the growth that I wanted. And one thing that I always tell people is there's no straight path in tech. Whoever tells you that is pretty much lying to your face. I can tell you for a long time, I learned HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and I was picking up Python for backend. And I loved Python. I really loved Python. And I learned it for about 4 months, and I realized there's 0 Python jobs in Memphis. And I was like, oh, no, what did I do? So then I dropped Python, and I started learning Java and SQL, and that was fantastic. But the reason why I picked Java, the companies I wanted to work for, the companies that I wanted, only use Java. C# is the main language in Memphis. And if you know C#, like you get a job here in no time. But they weren't the companies I wanted. So there's only like 10 companies in Memphis that use Java. So this was like putting all eggs in basket scenario. I would never recommend this because if it didn't work out, this would be a rags to rags story, not rags to riches, right? But it worked out. And the reason why I also chose Java was there's plenty of Java positions all over the country. There's 9 million developers that work in Java, and there's 3 billion devices that utilize it. So it's not going anywhere soon, for sure. I will also say C# is a phenomenal language with a ton of opportunities in it. At least in Memphis, I didn't see any for like a starting position. They wanted all seniors in it at that time. So it was, again, I'm stubborn. You know, it is what it is. I'm not going to try and lie about it. Like, I'm trying to make myself seem less stubborn, but no. It was really a stubborn scenario that I wanted to work for these select companies, and I was going to do anything I could to get there. And it worked out because 7 of them offered me a job. But the one company that I really wanted the most was the one that came with the best scenario, the best offer, the best whatever. But it gave me the opportunity. What I wanted the most was growth. I wanted someplace where I can climb up the ladder if I wanted to climb up. I wanted a place that I could learn and continue to learn with. And I wanted a place that would allow me to experiment with things. But the biggest of all, I wanted a place that would not block my community involvement. They wouldn't block the things that I'm doing with our city, because we're making some very positive changes. Memphis, I truly believe Memphis has all the makings of being like a tech hub, but we need to make changes happen, because what we've been doing historically is we have a couple of code schools and things like that, and we train these people, then there's no jobs, and then they leave. So how much are we shooting ourselves in the foot by not having good opportunities, by not having enough jobs? And one thing that Memphis is notorious for is we literally will have requirements like, oh, we need 10 years of PHP experience or whatever it may be.
Right.
And so now you're like, okay, you need 10 years of experience. You're not going to get that from a new learner. We don't have a lot of that experience in the city. So now we got to bring people in from another city like California. They stay for 2-3 years, save up their money, then go back. Right. Because we're such a high paying city for tech, but we're like lowest cost of living. So you're saving like 80% of your salary, then you're going back with all this new money. That money's not circulating in our economy.
Right. Cool. So we've got some questions here. You want to answer some questions?
No, I didn't come for that.
Oh.
Of course,
we have a no question clause. I forgot about that. Sorry.
Yeah.
So we did talk about this already. Yeah. But Cutting Out 30 saying, maybe this was covered. We did talk about it a little bit, but shouldn't someone use their tutorial projects in their portfolio?
Sure. I got a good answer for this. I have, like earlier where I have my 3 rules to become a developer, I have 4 rules to landing a job in tech. The very first rule is you have to have a very good LinkedIn profile. 90 million users on LinkedIn are hiring managers, decision makers, and business managers. Why wouldn't you want to be popular where they hang out? Stand out where they hang out. Simple as that. So you need a good LinkedIn profile. I can't tell you how many times where I'm not big on filling out applications. I don't like filling out applications. I leverage my networks. I literally will cold call and cold message hiring managers. And especially on LinkedIn Jobs, you can sometimes see who posted it. So I'll literally message them saying something like, "Hey, I'm Danny Thompson, and I'm an aspiring developer, whatever it may be. And there's 3 reasons why I matched the job that you just described. I would love to have a conversation." 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, "Yeah, I'm open to that. Let's have a conversation." I just skipped the entire application process. I went straight to interview number 1.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, LinkedIn, you definitely need to have a very strong profile. And if you need like ideas or whatever, I've literally just done 4 videos with actual hiring managers where we break down, critique, and help you increase your profile. I think we've done 40 profiles by now, to where we literally go over their profile, say what they're doing right, wrong, and help you basically make the changes that you need to stand out on LinkedIn. And I'm already, literally, we just did this last week. Already, I'm seeing the changes and the job searches people are landing for. Like on a weekly basis, I land between 500 to 600 job searches. Like they're looking, like I land in their criteria. One person landed in 1 for the entire week. This week, he literally sent me a screenshot. He landed in 112 by those changes. Awesome. So literally, you can change the trajectory of wherever you're landing just by that. Number 2, you need a very good portfolio site. It doesn't need to be technical, though. Most hiring managers have never coded a day in their life. It needs to be appealing somewhat to the eye. When they look at that website, they need to say, oh, this is a website I can trust. I don't care. I would prefer you to code this on your own, but if you have to, get a template or whatever it may be, as long as it's appealing to the hiring manager. Step 3, portfolio items. This is where you're showing your technical abilities. This is where your code speaks for you. This is where the manager of your team will look through your GitHub source code and all that good stuff to see if you know what you know. And a lot of times, if you have a very good portfolio items, like several of them, many times they'll let you skip that technical assessment. So it really, I'm not saying that's going to happen all the time. I've definitely done my fair share of whiteboard coding and HackerRank assessments, and they suck. But I will say you have that potential to miss like that whole thing. But the biggest thing is you can now steer the conversation of the interview where you want it to be. I'm a big believer in steer that conversation, you'll get the offer. So let me give you a quick example of that. Give real life examples of whatever you did. So for example, let's say they say, oh, well, do you know React? Or we'll say SQL. Do you know SQL? And you can say, yes, I know SQL, which is a very boring answer, right? That's not going to steer the conversation where you want it to go. Or you could say, yes, I know SQL because I created an application that separated city database names and between rural and urban, and I used SQL to create those databases, and I used React on the front end to display that information. Now you've steered that conversation to your 2 strengths. You know React, you know SQL, and you've got a project that have done it. So obviously you can prove it. Now they're going to dig in deeper. Well, what cities did you use? Or like, where did you get that information? Did you use an API to pull that? Like now you're controlling the interview versus them going down their predetermined path. That is a huge thing that I tell people all the time. And I can literally tell you from so many people, when they've done that, immediately they've seen a difference in how hiring managers respond to them. Because the other thing is confidence and knowing your stuff is kind of, I don't have a better word for this, but sexy, right? Like it's good when someone's talking to you and you're confident because you know what you're speaking about. Now, for example, that example was in SQL and React. If they were to ask me about Angular in that scenario, I probably wouldn't know it, right? Or if they asked me about, well, I know that you know SQL and React. Well, what about Django and Flask? I've lost a little bit of that confidence at that point. So if I can keep them where I want them, I control the strength of that interview. And if I keep smacking them in the face over and over with confidence and good answers, I may knock them out in love with me, right? So that's a great way to do that. And the last item, you need the resume. The resume is not totally a big deal. You do need something if you have to submit an application. But I also say the resume is the thing that you hand in an interview, and they'll glance over it, but you can start controlling the interview from that moment with that resume.
Yeah. I think taking control of the interview is our secret sauce here at Coder Foundry, where you want to take an interview question and turn it into a demo of your portfolio project. So many people, when they go to an interview, they just wait for someone to ask them a question instead of like what you're saying is like, well, let me tell you about this React project or the C# project, and could I show it to you? You want to look at it? And like it's got SQL, it's got all the stuff in it, and then suddenly the questions change from what I call code trivia to things about your code, which should be easy for you to answer since you wrote it.
Right.
That's how, So that's kind of cool.
Yep. We align definitely on that kind of stuff. We think we have exactly the same philosophy.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
100%.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's see here. This is interesting. Coding After 30 said, I have some of my friends show me their portfolio, and I know exactly what courses they took, since their projects are not that much different. Would that be a form of copying what the instructor did? This is sort of what we talked about earlier, isn't it? In like taking the coding project and repurposing it. I think that's what that's the terminology we use, is like taking the knowledge that you've learned and then applying it to something different. So you learn A, you apply A. You learn B, you apply B, but it's a different thing. Like you said, you make something around cats is the tutorial, but you make it around dogs, and it's different, but it's using the same ideas.
So I've seen it with a Yelp camp from Colt Steel, which is a great tutorial, but then you see the exact Yelp camp on someone's portfolio and they need to change that to something else.
Yeah. We've suggested extending that too into maybe pulling in an API or something too to have real like data pulled in as well. Just even extension of it is better than just putting it up ad nauseum as it came out of the tutorial.
Yeah. So the thing with that too, I'll also say it really depends on your level. Like if you're applying for a junior and you have no experience, I don't think managers really hold that against you too much. As opposed to like now, if you've got some experience in the field, this is a different conversation. They're expecting you to come out with some stuff like this. But I also always say, like I said earlier, if you learn how to make a car reservation application, make one for houses. Make these your own instead of just following the same cookie cutter recipe. We're not looking for a baker. What do you call them? Is it a baker? A baker. We're not looking for a baker that follows a recipe. We're looking for problem solvers. That is what tech is. Your job in tech, the languages don't matter. I can tell you, like this week alone, I've worked in 4 different languages, right? Language doesn't matter. What matters is you understand the ways to approach these problems and solve them. People are paying you this money. They're not paying you 6 figures to go follow a YouTube tutorial. They're paying you 6 figures to say, this is broken. How do I fix it?
Right. Exactly.
Yep.
So that's kind of cool.
Yep.
I like
problem solving abilities are key. Definitely. Yep.
Yeah. So what other comments? We got a couple of things about tutorial purgatory, and we can quiz Danny on them. So like
so one we've literally already talked about. We've literally been talking about this.
I love being ahead of the competition. There we go.
Yeah.
This is literally this, right? It's the same thing we were just talking about. It's the same point. It's skipping the instructions, right? It's like taking the instructions and repurposing them and doing something else with them. Right. It's like it's making something else. So we've really already talked about that one. But here's something. Start with what's comfortable. So building something, if you know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, start there. You've already built something in that, and then I think you mentioned this earlier, Dan, too. Extend on that. Like now you want to make it like interactive. Now pull in something else that's gonna, maybe you're putting a database on the back end to store something or whatever that may be. It's about start with comfortable and then extend.
Yeah, I would say, sure, start with what's comfortable, but don't be afraid of becoming uncomfortable. Yeah. And I think that's the reason why tutorial purgatory exists, because you stay so far in your comfort zone that you never want to extend past that. So definitely, be comfortable, but don't get too comfy. Like get some good running shoes. Let your feet be comfortable because they're going to make consistent steps on your journey. Don't let them stay where they are and be stagnant.
Yep.
Okay,
Love
cool.
That.
I like it.
And then the third tip we had too was asking for help. So what we mean by this is it's okay to, when you're coming outside of that tutorial and you're building something else, is use Stack Overflow, Google something. Like developers do it on the job. So doing it during the building phase of your portfolio application is also okay. Don't feel like that's a weakness. That's a strength.
I can't agree with this enough. Like I can't. My heart. I want to jump out of my seat. I can't agree with this. Actually, the very first profound moment, and I talk about this all the time. I used to beat myself up with memorizing every single possible word in a syntax and language, right? And I remember my first week on the job, I was stuck on a problem. Didn't know what to do. I had the senior developer, got like 20-something years of experience, and I go to him with this problem, right? And I spent hours working on this, and I'm not making any headway. And of course, it's your first week. No one expects you really to get much accomplished in that time period. They're just going to throw you in the deep end and try and guide you through, right? Mm-hmm. So I go to him with this problem. I'm like, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. And I was like, can you help me? And he looks at me, he's like, man, I don't know. Just started Googling it. And I stared, and I'm like, this genius is Googling this problem.
Yeah.
It is not really meant for you to memorize every single piece of literature.
Right.
What is there is for you to be able to say, okay, I'm Googling this. I'm coming across multiple solutions. Which one is the right one? That's where your knowledge of the language kicks in, because you're saying, oh, this would work. This would fail. This would work. This would fail. And you're going to experiment to try some things out. But him Googling that in front of me, I was like, oh, it's okay for me to rely on senior developer Google here. Like, it's okay for me to rely on, Stack Overflow, which I thought was only for the people doing tutorials and not in real life scenarios. And I will tell you honestly, if you look at my Google search history, I'm probably on there, 150 times a day searching how to do this, how to do that. So don't beat yourself up on asking for help, looking for solutions. And I will also say, I have developed this habit. I will instantly go to someone with more knowledge in a moment's notice if I know I'm stuck. Like, I'll try and work it out, and once I realize I can't, I'll go grab them by the hand and bring them. And what's funny is I've noticed in our industry, a lot of people don't do that. And they'll waste a lot of hours trying to solve something because they're nervous, afraid of asking.
I think it's a sign of like weakness. Like, you're going to get found out. This is part of imposter syndrome. Even when you're on the job, it's imposter syndrome. You feel like, man, if I don't know this, they're going to like fire me. This is not true.
I'll tell you, every senior developer is a junior in another subject. That genius in C# is a beginner when it comes to AWS or DevOps or whatever. We're always learning. I always say to be a developer is to be on a lifelong journey of learning. Right? It never stops. So don't ever hesitate to ask, because you may save yourself a day's worth of work with one question.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
What's funny is like that senior developer, he's not going to code it right in front of you, but he may say, go look in XYZ location and you'll find what you're looking for. That just saved you a ton of time. So now, like, I don't waste any time asking. Like, if I know I'm stuck, boom, I'm asking right away. And through that collaborative effort, you will get so much knowledge. And the other thing is, especially because of imposter syndrome that you mentioned it, I still get imposter syndrome all the time. Like, all the time. Especially before a code review. Oh, man, it kicks in big time. It kicks in big. What's funny is, well, go ahead.
I was going to say mine kicks in when I'm doing live coding right before we go live. I'm like, is this crap going to work?
We talk about that on here all the time.
If you live code and don't make a mistake, I don't believe that you really live coded. Like, it's not going to. I don't believe it at that point.
I always say, like, I love the mistakes because it allows, like, so I'm not a developer. So it allows me to, like, see like your process of like fixing it, which I think is that insight into like, oh, how did you know to go look at that line to fix that thing? Like, that learning path to me is like, that's where I learn like that kind of stuff. I find that interesting. I think other people do too.
For me, I don't really watch tutorials. I'm more of a research and build kind of person, but I have noticed one thing on tutorials is no one makes a mistake in a tutorial video, right? But in real life, they all make mistakes.
Yeah.
But that debugging process is fascinating to me. And that's why I love doing meetups, and we'll get speakers from like all over to come talk. We had one, he literally is a Google developer. He works at Google, right? Made a mistake, and for 15 minutes, he's debugging it, right? I was glued to that situation as opposed to him just coding away. That's where I get the enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, so it's crazy interesting. Because it's the thought process that person goes through. It's the thought process. Like, because Bobby will do this all the time, and I find it fascinating. I'll be like, how did you know to go do that part there? You just went. I'm like, you need to tell me like why you went to that file, why you went to that particular line. How did you know to go look for that, and talk me through it? Because I can then learn your process, and that's how I can learn to be better.
Yeah, so that's why I'm watching like coders on Twitch streams, because like they'll break, and now I'm like, all right, now we're in the good part. Like,
exactly.
We've gone off script, and now this is where the good stuff is.
Yeah. Right. So that's why I hate whiteboard interviews, because like what I wanted to do when I was interviewing for a whiteboard interview, some guy gave me a whiteboard challenge. What I wanted to do was give a challenge back to the hiring manager and say, you can't Google either. So like, because we know we Google all the time, man. It's just like they want me to like write something verbatim in C# with a whiteboard marker. It's not practical.
It's really not. And one thing that I think, so most of the time when they whiteboard code, they want that correct answer. One thing that I've realized is if you talk a lot while you're whiteboard coding, explaining what you're thinking, explaining where your mind is going, even if you get the wrong answer, they may still be very interested. I can tell you right now, with a very big company, mind you, I failed that whiteboard coding, in immaculate fashion. But I talked my way through it, and I got an offer from them, literally, even though I failed.
Right.
Wow.
If you talk through it, if you're going through like all the steps, that's what they really want to see. They know most people aren't going to ace this whiteboard coding situation, but they want to see, can you actually do the mental gymnastics that's required to try and find the correct answer?
Yeah, cool. That's awesome, man. So we see if we have any other questions, Kevin. We can ask it.
That's a good point. Nice feelings when a tutorial does make a mistake and you spot it before the tutor does. Yeah. We had that the other day with like Jason coding. We had our instructor on here coding, and I'm like, Jason, make mistakes, man. I love it when you make mistakes. It's the best thing about this. He wants to be like, not make mistakes and not look bad. And I'm like, no, like do that. I love that. I love seeing when you make that mistake.
Yeah, the worst part is JavaScript online because the compiler doesn't tell you jack diddly. You have to spell everything correctly. If you have an ID in Java or C# and you type in a variable name, it's going to correct it for you. So like JavaScript's hard to do online live. And then when you have 1,000 people watching you and you miss a semicolon, you see the comments flowing. You forgot your semicolon. I'm like, dude, I know. Give me a second.
That's why I love it, because now my debugging time.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me see here. Here's a question. So Ian says, would it be a waste of time to create a project similar to a company? For example, if the company uses Laravel, and I spent 5 days making a Laravel app similar to what their company uses when applying. It's interesting.
You guys want to answer, or you want me to answer? I'll answer.
Yeah, go for it.
Go ahead.
There's no damn way I'm spending 5 days making a thing for a website. Like, unless I've gone through like interview one, and like things are looking good, will I invest that kind of time to do that? But when it comes to applying at companies, like you may apply to 100. Are you gonna make 100 websites to try and get somewhere in a short period of time? And so, like for me, I don't know how long you have allocated to trying to find a job. Do you have 2 years? Then sure, knock yourself out. But if you're trying to get this, in a couple months, that's not really practical unless you're putting all your eggs in that one basket. Because if they say no, the only thing you're getting out of that 5 days is another item to add to your portfolio list, I suppose.
Right.
And then maybe you're going to get a cease and desist letter for putting it online. Right?
That's true. I think the point here is you could apply for, let's say that you've targeted like Laravel jobs, right? And you've produced something in Laravel that you can use to apply to 100 different places, then that's worth spending the time on.
Yeah.
But I agree, making it customized for every single application is going to be
hard.
It's not sustainable. You're not going to be able to do that.
Unless I've gone far into that interview process and I'm like, all right, this is the icing on the cake. This is the cherry on top. There's no way I would invest that kind of time to try and do something like that. But I'll be honest, if you've made it that far in the interview process, I doubt you need a website that's going to push you through as opposed to somebody else either.
Mm-hmm. I do think it's sometimes it's very practical. Like if you have React on your portfolio, interview for React jobs. Try to like make your portfolio match to what the job seeker's looking for.
Yeah, we definitely talk about that a bunch. Like in terms of like even before that, before you've made your portfolio applications, you should have done the research just like you did. You wanted to work somewhere that had Java, so you knew the company used Java. So your demonstrations in your portfolio was already in Java. You learned Java and everything was in Java. Same thing. You have to sort of have an idea of what you want to build, and then it can't be a surprise at the end when you go to the interview and you're like, oh, I see your portfolio is in C#, but we use Java. Like and you're misaligned a little bit. It's going to be a tougher hill to climb.
Well, the other thing is, I don't know how the hell you got to the interview if you're in a different language altogether. But yeah
exactly.
Like, but I will say, and that's another thing too. Everyone asks all the time, what's the magic language that I need to learn to become a developer? And there is no magic language. There are some that are very popular. For example, Python is the #1 used language in America right now with the most jobs. Java is #2 on that list. And I mean, we can go on and on. And by the way, this is the list provided by Indeed. It's not like I made up these statistics. Like you can go search that yourself for 2020. But with that being said, none of that matters unless that's in your area, right? Your area, for example, like Memphis, may be C# dominant. Python's not going to help you here. But then again, for example, where was I? In Austin, Texas, there's a ton of Python positions. Like it really varies by market. So I always say, spend a couple weeks looking at the job listings in your market, right? Look what's coming and look what's going, what's being filled fast. Don't just look at whatever ads are there. what's coming and going quickly. Because you got all these companies like Accenture or Reviture that like, post these ads that stay there forever because they're just trying to get people to go through like this scammy boot camp thing that they do. Yeah. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. Please don't sue me.
No.
It's probably a great boot camp. I don't know.
Yeah.
I love y'all. Please don't sue me. Okay. But look at what's coming and going. Those are the ones that are filling jobs quickly. And you'll see like, oh, Java's coming and going really fast. Oh, C# is coming and going really fast. And I'll be honest with you, C# is in so many markets that it's hard not to find it in an area that would be near you anyway. And so if I didn't know Java, C# would be like, I don't know if that's the language that you guys teach in, by the way.
That's what we teach. That's exactly what we teach.
Man, C# is awesome.
Yeah.
And here's the 20. Hold on. There you go.
Thank you. But in all honesty, like just search your job market. And no one's ever going to be able to tell you what's in your market besides you. And if you spend a couple weeks, the first couple of days may take you a little bit longer than most. But after that, you're going to start realizing, well, this ad was here yesterday. This ad was here the day before. This one is new. This one is already gone. Oh, they did that. They filled that out in a week. That was gone. Okay. That's how you're going to learn very quickly, like where the money's at, where the jobs are, and you can keep growing that way.
Cool. Awesome, man. Well, Danny, it's lunchtime here. It's 1:00. You have done a fantastic job. I think I'm looking at the comments here. You have motivated a lot of people, and awesome. I've loved talking to you. Maybe you'll come back on and we'll do some other stuff. Talk about some other stuff because I really
definitely do something else for sure.
Yeah,
I'm always good for a good conversation.
Yeah,
awesome. So you have a podcast too. Let's see.
So I do have a podcast. I will admit, slightly neglected, but the problem is
that's all right.
I have a bunch of episodes that I'm about to release soon, but I find very interesting stories. For example, one of the last episodes that I just released was with Jamie McGuire. He literally worked at a dairy farm, learned how to code, went to college, and he became a developer. Well, from the developer, he became a Microsoft MVP in AI. He actually created so much technology on the back end that he showed something to Twitter. Twitter was like, he's from Scotland. Twitter's like, we need to see you in America. Like, come. He couldn't make it. And Twitter flew a team out there to him to go over what he made on a $200 laptop.
Dang.
If that isn't making use of whatever you have available to you to the fullest potential, then I don't know what is. Yeah. So I definitely recommend following him on Twitter, Jamie McGuire. Phenomenal human being, great guy. I also interviewed an amazing human being called Laren Hampton. He was also a speaker at our conference. Laren Hampton started out as a mailroom clerk, and he learned everything about tech. He rose the ranks, and then he became a serial entrepreneur and helped start up several tech companies. And he's currently the founder of an IT consulting firm that helps boot camps place their students in positions. So we gave a ton of information on how to break into the industry and how to make sure that you're standing out and things like that. So I highly, highly recommend that episode as well. But I'm always looking for like the coolest, interesting, and inspirational stories that will get you to where you want to be.
Yeah,
I'm totally awesome, man. You got to go subscribe to that. You can find it pretty much anywhere. It's Commit Your Code is the podcast name, just on your favorite podcast app, whatever it may be.
Yeah, and Adam put it down there in the comments, and then we'll link it in the description on the video after this.
Yep. Where else can we find you online then, Danny? What else you got going?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, eHarmony. No, I'm joking. My wife will hate that. but you can find me pretty much on social media. All my handles are the same: D Thompson Dev or Danny Thompson. You should be able to see the $1 million face at that point. So, you'll
that's
be able
it, baby.
There. So, just don't. I will admit, I get about 500 to 700 messages a day now. So it's very hard for me to keep track. I do my best to reply to as many tweets and as questions as I can. Tweet at me. That's probably the most guaranteed way that you're going to get a reply. And I do my best to answer things. But here's a big thing. Don't hit me with a, hey, how you doing? When you approach someone you don't know, come with execution in mind of what you're trying to obtain, what you're trying to ascertain, and what you're trying to achieve. Don't hit me with the "Hey, how you doing?" It's not going to get a reply. It's not a conversation starter, and no one wants to reply to that.
Right.
Same thing with a recruiter. If you start cold calling and cold messaging recruiters, a "Hey, how you doing?" is not going to get you where you want to be. You need to come in with a very focused and precise set of instructions in mind to what you want.
All right, cool. That's great advice. That's great advice. So, all right, well, cool. Well, guys, hit Danny up on Twitter. Follow him on his podcast. And he's a great guy to get to know. And if you're in Memphis, maybe he'll cook you some chicken.
Definitely. We'll definitely link up again. Maybe we'll do a podcast episode or something. Let's see.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
That'd be
That's
super
all right.
cool. That'd be super
All
cool.
right.
Thanks for joining us, Danny. We appreciate
Thanks for
it.
joining us, Danny. See you later.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate all of you. Bye.
That was so good.
That was super, super good. Yeah. Danny's a super smart guy with a lot to say, and his viewpoints align with ours.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
In kind of getting people into this space and helping people get in here. It's cool. I love it. Very, very cool.
All right. Well, guys, I hope this helped, and we'll let you go. We're going to go eat lunch, but good luck.
I'm going to do one more thing before we leave. One more thing before we leave.
One more thing. Oh, yeah.
Give it up. We do have a Xamarin course coming up.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
To talk about. So we do have a Xamarin class coming up that you can attend remotely. Let me share this here real quick. So you can go to our website, coderefinery.com/mobile. It's for a week, the week of August 17th.
Look at that guy right there. Look at that guy.
There you go. He's going to tell you all about the mobile course if you go to this page.
Yeah.
And you can apply. It's a remote. This tells you everything that you need. It's a virtual class, just like the boot camp is, to tell you everything that you need to, again, the week of August 17th, if anybody is interested.
Yeah, it should be kind of cool. A lot of fun. All right, cool. Awesome.
Okay, that's all I got.
All right, that's all I got. Well, good luck, guys. Keep on coding. We'll see you tomorrow.